I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud, and this is Commotion, and this is TIFF in 12. This is a podcast where we take you much closer to the Toronto International Film Festival. The festival wrapped up yesterday. The People's Choice Awards were announced, so we talked on this podcast about the documentary winner. That's Barry Averich's The Road Between Us. Also the international film fan favorite, which is Bak Chan-wook's No Other Choice. But we have not talked about Hamnet, which is the big winner. It won the People's Choice. That's a huge deal. Teri's here, Rad is here. We're going to get into it. Guys, Hamnet is an unstoppable train in terms of just like going to the Oscars at this point. This is a Chloe Zhao movie. This is a fictionalized story of William Shakespeare and grieving his son, Hamnet, who's 11 years old and he dies. That happened in real life. And then there was this novel that sort of like tried to sort of imagine the story. This is an adaptation of that novel. Let's talk a little bit about this idea of this movie and the momentum it has, because everybody's like, this movie completely wrecked everybody who sees it. Teri, did it wreck you the same way?
Yeah, I was wrecked. I mean, I saw it at 8:50 in the morning after standing in line outside the Scotiabank Theatre in Toronto for a solid 50 minutes. So it's maybe not the most ideal situation to go into like an emotionally fraught movie. And yet I was pretty sniffly through the end. Jessie Buckley, I've gone on record as saying I think she is my favorite actor right now, and she has been for many, many years. Paul Mescal always blows my mind because when I see him on screen, I'm like, did he just drop his kids off at like T-ball? Like he kind of has a bit of an unassuming thing going on.
Totally.
And then he delivers these performances consistently that are just so full of humanity. And I think that that is what Hamnet is. It's these two performances with a really skilled director in Chloe Zhao, as you mentioned, Elamin. She also wrote the screenplay based on, I believe the novel won the Booker. So this is an acclaimed book. And I just think that this is that movie that people go to see and are emotionally swept away to another time. There's some feel of familiarity to it, and yet it is beyond all of us. So I think that Hamnet is unstoppable. Mostly, I think Jessie Buckley is unstoppable. I think it's her Academy Award to lose, and I hope she doesn't. I think she's real deserving, not just for this, but really for her body of work from like Wild Rose days. If you haven't seen Wild Rose, see Wild Rose.
Shout out Wild Rose. Listen, I'm a country music fan. Of course I've seen Wild Rose. Get out of here. Okay, Rad, let's talk about you. Do you have the same kind of reaction to Hamnet?
I didn't actually like, and it's interesting because
everybody's shocked, by the way. The people are just like, oh, what a surprise, what a shock.
I think there's going to be an interesting post-TIFF, not backlash, but just people being like, really, yo, like that was your fave. And the thing is, bear in mind, like the theater I was in was a chorus of sobs, right? So I heard all that, and it's not like, like the moment you mentioned, like the really hard hitting moments, where the grief is really setting in. Like it's not like I didn't feel anything, and I think a lot of what I felt was thanks to Jessie Buckley's performance because she is absolutely incredible. But I don't think I think the movie takes its time just to build up to those moments and doesn't have a lot going on otherwise. And like, I mean, what it does have going on otherwise is like Chloe Zhao taking her time with this romance and her relationship while also just being so in love with her very whispery vibes and the atmosphere that she sets up. It's like, oh, isn't it all so beautiful? Like I was just like,
God forbid.
God forbid
we have a beautiful movie. I made a beautiful movie.
Not when you're
Rad,
telling
God forbid you connect to the beauty that surrounds you. You know what I mean? Like, God, let that never happen to you.
Here's the thing. I feel like she was showing me the beauty instead of letting me feel the beauty. So,
I don't mind being shown the beauty either, but I will say that like the conversation around Hamnet has been interesting because it's building momentum from festival to festival. You just get a lot of critics coming out and saying, okay, that really knocked me out in ways that like, I'm not even seeing a lot of other conversations about other movies in the Oscar race. Really, Hamnet is always like lock that in. That's a for sure sort of in. Teri, when you sort of like look at this general scene, like this idea of like, okay, after the People's Choice Awards are announced, there's always this discussion of like, okay, we didn't talk enough about this movie. What's a movie that for you, you're like, that should have been on people's radar, instead of all the conversations has gone towards Hamnet,
Yeah, I mean, I'm in full support of Hamnet winning People's Choice, to be clear. I'm not in full support of the first runner-up and second runner-up. I was kind of like, what? Where did they come out of? That being Frankenstein and the third movie in the Knives Out franchise. What is that even doing at the festival? Anyway,
I liked it.
yeah, sure, you can like it. It shouldn't have been in the festival. I think that whether these should have been, recognized in the awards category or not, movies that I had a really fun time watching or thought were really great. Dead Man's Wire, the Gus Van Sant movie that stars Bill Skarsgård and Carrie Elwes and Coleman Domingo, did not talk about enough. Not talk about how this is a 1977 true story that really mirrors so much of what is going on today. Also, a movie called Outstanding. And, this first year of it being the first People's Choice Award for International Feature, I just find it weird and I think it's muddying the waters.
Okay, Rad, quickly, just a couple titles to you. What titles should have been mentioned in this conversation?
I'll co-sign the Dead Man's Wire thing. I just saw that last night, and that was really a solid
Wow.
movie.
Wow.
And yeah,
Wow. Hell is freezing over. It's unbelievable. Okay, sorry. Continue.
And then,
Yes.
I mean, the movie that rocked me was Voice of Hind Rajab, which, that was, of course, I mean, Hind Rajab, the story there. It is the devastating story
6-year-old
in
Palestinian
itself.
girl.
6-year-old Palestinian girl on the phone with the Red Cross Society, who were trying to get an ambulance out to her, but could not get through. They could not get through. And I mean, if you don't know how things end, I would definitely either search it up, but also keep an eye out for this movie. So the movie is, I mean, as devastating as heartfelt as you would expect. What I wasn't necessarily expecting is how well crafted it also was, because what you have is these really great actors performing the people in the Red Crescent Society, the people who are taking Hind Rajab's call. They're using in the film the actual audio that is playing out, and it's on top of it being kind of almost a Paul Greengrass-ish setup, where you think of something like United 93 in terms of playing out the play-by-play, but also moments where the actors are listening to the audio calls from their real life selves and Hind, and just processing the emotions. So it hits you on so many levels, that movie, and it's so beautiful. I hope it gets a release.
Okay, so this is the last TIFF in 12, and we literally only have like 4.5 minutes left here. And with the closing minutes that we have, I want to maybe ground the last conversation here about where TIFF is in the sort of grand scheme of things in terms of festivals, because there was this piece in The Walrus by Greta Rainbow that talked about how, there's been this evolution of TIFF becoming kind of a dumping ground of vanity projects. So you see a lot of actors who are like, I want to try directing. And then Brian Cox has a movie in this festival. Scarlett Johansson has a movie in this festival. There's this idea that TIFF is for the celebrities. TIFF is about the headlines that sort of the celebrities, as opposed to it is for the films themselves that are actually like coming to this festival. Does that feel true to you, Teri? That the TIFF has kind of been too celebrity focused and not enough film focused?
I think this is a question of like what came first, the chicken or the egg. We criticize TIFF for being too celebrity focused, and then in the same breath we criticize them for not having the Jeremy Allen White Bruce Springsteen biopic. We criticize them for not having the Julia Roberts movie. We criticize them for not having the George Clooney movie. So I mean, we're really guilty, I think all of us, of talking out of both sides of our mouth on this issue where the festival is concerned. That's what we've talked about in TIFF and 12. We finally got around to talking about the Canadian movies on like Thursday. Guys, we did the same thing. So like, let's not be hypocritical here. Let's say that, and TIFF has been courting actors turned directors. This is my 30th film festival. TIFF has been courting actors turned directors for decades. That has been, between actors turned directors, concert movies about musicians. I mean, these are all, kind of genres that we've seen in the festival for many, many years. So I don't think it's unique to 2025 or the 50th. I think it's hard for something to steadily rise and increase over 50 years, especially when the industry the festival is about is in its crisis of character. So I think there's a lot at play here, and I don't think it is just TIFF is courting celebrities. I think there's a much more holistic view of what's going on with the film festival, and it's not going to change overnight. It's gotten to this point for a reason. It will take time for it to find new footing in a new business landscape for movies.
I'm not mad at the idea of courting celebrities. Actually, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's just as long as the films themselves sort of are up to snuff. I don't think that's necessarily even a bad MO for a festival. But when I sort of see the festival street blocked off and there's so many people sort of like trying to get a glimpse of Angelina Jolie, that tells me something about the character of the festival. And also at the same time, Rad, like there's Cannes, there's Venice, there's Telluride sort of like nipping at TIFF's buds, that like heels. There's something sort of going on there in terms of where TIFF is trying to carve out a space that says we are different than those other festivals. Here's our offering. What is TIFF at its best, do you think?
I mean, look, like I think at its best and its worst, TIFF is a festival for everybody. And when you make a festival for everybody and you invite so many different films of different tastes and whatnot, and also court celebrities, which TIFF absolutely does, you're going to get a lot of low quality films. And then you're going to get these accusations that TIFF is less curated. I say accusations, but there is a truth to the fact that the curation of TIFF seems less of a high bar, right? Because of all the smorgasbord of films they let loose. But it's interesting. I mean, even the celebrity factor, like this accusation that TIFF is the dumping ground for vanity projects. You mentioned the Scarlett Johansson film. There's also a Kristen Stewart directorial debut, and they both premiered at Cannes. So this is not a TIFF issue. You know what I mean? Like maybe TIFF does it a little more so because it is like coming at the end of this festival season, and it's got to throw in a few more world premieres on top of the stuff that already premiered. But I think that to take it back to what is the impression that TIFF is creating? I mean, it is and I don't know if we said this at the beginning of the podcast, but I think it is coming back to that whole festival of festivals aspect where we're collecting things that premiered at all these other festivals, and then we have a few extra world premieres to boot, and we have more celebrities, I think, than anyone else. So we just have more of everything.
We have more time, right? There's more movies, and we have people going to these festivals. People do not go to Telluride. That is an industry event. People do not go to Cannes. That does need to be remembered time and time again. You know, that might end up being its Achilles heel, the fact that anybody can come out of a movie and put on TikTok or wherever their opinion. What used to be our strength could be our weakness.
And can I just, when you were saying the thing about the festival street and people flocking for celebrities, like I'll tell you, in Cannes, it's just a rush of influencers that are just trying to be in that environment and get like all dressed up. It's still the same celebrity chasing or people trying to put themselves out as celebrities and catch footage of themselves. So
I want to acknowledge that we are now at least 30 seconds over the 12-minute mark. One, and number two, I have a broken foot. What do you want from me? I have to say that like I've been really grateful for your commentary, both of you, and for your ability to see so many movies, because I have been at home for the most part, except for I did go see one film that was a Little Fair documentary, and then at the party immediately afterwards I saw Rad there, and he was like, "Aren't you supposed to be at home?" And I said, "Hey, you're not the boss of me. You're not my doctor."
I felt like instead of a Bigfoot sighting, it was a Bruckfoot sighting, and so I was so overjoyed.
You know what? Next year, I'm going to be so ready for TIFF. I'm not going to miss a single movie. But in the meantime, I appreciate both of you for taking us on this journey a little bit closer to the festival. You guys are the best. I appreciate you.
Love you all.
Thank you.
Yay, love you guys. Thank you. It's been a great year.
Oh, what a time. Rad, Simonpillai, Teri, Hart. They've been covering TIFF for Commotion. They're the absolute best. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This has been TIFF in 12. I think maybe we're at TIFF in 14 for now. But again, forgive me. My foot is broken. What do you want from me? Have a great day.